Rachel here. Thanks for tuning in. And what's really coming up a lot right now, I have so many different ideas about where I want this channel to go, and this, if you're catching this on my website, where I want this vlog to go. But what's moving right now a lot is postpartum and postpartum care. I have 4 different friends that are all pregnant, and even before thinking about the actual birth, I feel like it's even more important to think about the postpartum and the post-birth, because the birth is going to happen, and the body will allow it to happen, and it's half a day, or sometimes it takes a couple of days, but then it's done, and then it's like, okay, well, now what? And really, when I did my first, I have two children. You don't know me yet. And my first birth, I did a free birth, and I worked with a woman from afar, me and my partner, and she was really just focused so much of the time in prepping us on the postpartum, and just like planning the postpartum and having that all set, and really stressing, really just showing that the more that you have that postpartum planned, the more your birth can be relaxed, because you know that I have this postpartum nest to go into, and I've thought about it ahead of time. I have my different boxes checked of what I've been planning for, and this baby can just come out because I am going to walk into this nest and be so cared for. So yes, so what is this nest? What is this postpartum nest? It can look different for a lot of different cultures. So many different cultures have a real postpartum culture where it's just known that the mother doesn't leave the house for 21 days, 40 days, whatever, 30 days, whatever it is for them. And it is known that the mother is being cared for. The children that she may have already are being cared for. Food is being brought in. Her home is being cared for. She really shouldn't be leaving her bed more than she needs to for that defined time. And it's just known, and people just step in and do it, and that's a part of the culture. But I feel like in so much of our Western culture right now, we don't have a postpartum framework of what that looks like. I know that meal trains are definitely seem more popular, that okay, let's get a meal train going, and that is so wonderful and great, but it also is a lot more than just the meal train, and more than just the food. And so I have some other videos that kind of goes into the different aspects of the nest and what to plan for, but I just really want to focus on what is the nest and why it's important right now. But yeah, I think really having a defined set of days. I really love 40 days. I feel like 40 is a full cycle of just completion. Jesus was in the desert for 40 days. It's like this 40 days. It's a time period that a whole transition can happen and can be moved, because I feel like, the birth happens and we birth the baby, and then the nest, and this postpartum nest, is what I call birthing the family, because it's really you're being birthed either as a new mom or a mom of now 2 kids, 3 kids. You're changing. It looks different now, and the father is being birthed, and if you have other siblings, they're now being birthed as now they're a big brother, big sister. Now they have 2 younger siblings. Everyone's roles are changing. So it's just the more we can have this time where really the outside community is stepping in to support this family. I stress this a lot in other videos, where I think a lot of times a lot can be put on the spouse, the father, or whoever the spouse is, that they can do that, but not also realizing that the nest really is meant to be for them too, that they can have this kind of open space to process their transition and to just be there to love on you and love on the baby. So really, this nest time is a time to, while you still are pregnant, that's the goal, is to plan it out as much as possible, since we don't have as much of a culture for it yet, that you can really plan it out, that you can really get your community to come in to know how to support you for those 40 days. And the more that people know how to support you ahead of time, the more you don't have to think about it after, and you can kind of just go into that. And of course, yes, but I have 2 children, so I've had 2 very different nests, and I'll save those for a different video. But there's a lot of adjusting that happens in the nest to realizing, okay, this isn't working. Oh, I need some extra help here, But just the more that it can be planned out ahead of time. So check out my other videos on how to actually plan for your nest. But just know that that's what it is. And I remember when I first heard about it, it almost felt like a dream. Like, so wait, I'm just gonna have 40 days to do nothing? I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning, I'm not doing laundry, and it almost felt like that's gonna be forever, like, is that too long? Like, do I deserve that much? Do I deserve that much support? Like, a lot of, I actually feel like it's a beautiful time that you're being served, but it's also like a real time of like processing a lot of emotion and a lot of mind frames that we have. Both nests have actually been beautiful, but really challenging for me too. And just like, am I allowed to ask for this help? Like, am I asking too much? Do I deserve this? And all these things that we don't even maybe realize that we have going on with us. So it's really a beautiful time to look at that and work with that, and know that you really deserve this time, and yeah, this kind of brings me more to the why do this nest, why is it important? Because I don't know, it's like, you physically, depending on how your birth went, you physically might feel fine within a couple days, so your body feels good, so it's like, okay, I can just start doing stuff. But there's so much like mental, emotional, physical that goes on with birth that that really just needs that next period of time just to kind of be in an outer womb, and some moms might have a hard time doing it for themselves, but if you find yourself in that position, like, do it for your baby. Realize that this baby was just inside your womb, and now they're out in the world, and that is a lot of transition too. And they're really just learning to acclimate into this world, and it takes time to do that. And it's like each phase of our life kind of sets these blueprints, I feel like, within ourselves about like, what is this world, and this structural framework of what this world is. And I feel like in those first like days postpartum is like a huge time of like, what is this world, like, are the people around me like calm and feeling good, or is like people like frantic and stressed, and that can leave these blueprints. And everything can of course always be healed, but the more like we have this time where it's like meals, the mom can just be so there with the baby and so present and so with it and so supportive that she doesn't have to feel stressed in those times. Because we know that once the normal life sets in again, it's busier, and you do have to maybe go in the car to do something and go run an errand and do these different things where you're moving around and you're not always 100% fully present, but the more you can just set that foundation to let that baby acclimate for you and your baby and your whole family, yeah, just give so much space to do that. You know, if the husband doesn't have to focus on cooking all the meals and cleaning, he can just have that space to acclimate and go meditate and be. And the, you know, yeah, just the whole family having that extra little buffer in that little window can just like ease that transition so much. You know, because I feel like, at least for me, you hear the word postpartum, and I feel like somehow postpartum is like connected with the word depression. You know, like postpartum, oh, depression, but it's like, why is that connected like that? Like, is that normal? You know, but it kind of like gets normalized in a certain way that like, oh, it's a time that like moms can be depressed, but I don't think it needs to be like that. You know, like the hormones are changing, so it is a very sensitive time. But the more she can be fully supported in that time, like we don't have to have postpartum depression. And also with baby sleeping, you know, it feels so common, like, oh yeah, you're gonna be up all night with that baby and that whole thing, and no one's getting any sleep. But I also feel like having this buffer, these 40 days where like life is just really slow and really calm, like the baby can have a great sleep. You know, of course they're going to be, you know, waking to eat at night, but it doesn't have to be keeping you up all night. The baby can sleep and do great throughout the night if their nervous system isn't frazzled, you know, because it might be that like, oh, you have this new baby. And I remember when my best friend had her first baby like 8 years ago. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know about postpartum and planning anything. um, you know, and her parents came up a couple days later, and we were like out at lunch and out doing stuff, little tiny baby, you know. And the baby seemed fine in the moment of like being out, and I think they can, you know, but also I think there's a lot going on internally that we don't know, that then, you know, their nervous systems and their what's going on with them can be stressed out, that it comes on like, oh, later at night, now they can't sleep, what's going on, you know. And but the more their day can just be like, so just like in bed all day and like really in that rhythm, and having that foundation can really make for an easeful time coming into this world. The midwife that I work with from afar, she really just promoting the nest was the biggest thing she did for us. And then we learned a couple, you know, birth things a little bit, but really it was just the nest. And she said everyone that she worked with, like the baby didn't have any sleep issues, the mom didn't have any depression issues, because everything was thought about ahead of time. So yeah, it just feels so important to be bringing this back into our culture and to help our community know how to step in to really help, you know, and because they want to, but you know, we get in the busyness of our days, and sometimes like, oh yeah, the person had a baby, how can I, you know. But the more it's just like in a rhythm and a routine, like, oh, I'm making that, you know, I'm watching that person's kid once a week, I'm making them a meal once a week. You know, the more it's thought about ahead of time, but the mother helping her community know how to step in, the easier it is for the community to step in, the easier it is for the mom not to have to think about that in that postpartum time. Yeah. You know, and the more we develop a culture for this, it's like, it feels like it's forever that you're in this nest, but when you're in it, then it's not. And it's this time that the mom can be so nourished that then coming out, it's like she has that full energy to give back to her family, to give back to her community, and that full light to bring back in, you know. So when we have all these moms that feel charged, that feel alive to give back, it's just a completely different community, a different culture. And you know, this my second nest, especially, I had a lot of different people kind of coming in and helping out, that I felt so touched and blessed by that now, like, I have these 4 friends that are having babies, and I'm like, okay, let's, like, how can I help? Like, I feel so excited to help because I got to receive that, you know. So in that time of receiving, just fully receive, because then later there's a time when, like, when it is the time you can fully give and you have the energy to do it and so much drive to do it because you're so excited to give back. And yeah, it's everything. So yeah, I'm gonna leave some links to other videos on just more the practicalness of planning your nest and the 4 different main aspects I really like to go over in that. So thanks for tuning in, and if you're catching this on YouTube, please subscribe and like, because it makes all the difference in my newness of this channel and building it up and helping it to be something that can really be supportive for me, my family, and give me the time and space to really give back to the community. So thank you all. Aloha, ciao, bye.